Hi guys, here we are. Let me mute that real quick. We're not seeing very fast enough for experience buffering. Oh no, the stream status is bad. Okay. I'm seeing you guys have some questions here. Hey everyone, Bryan Barron, Director of Skincare Research at Paula's Choice Skincare, here for this week's live chat. Looks like we might be having a bit of technical difficulties because the stream is bad. So let me call my guy back. Let's see here. One moment. We'll get this fixed. Hey Andrew, it's Bryan again, and I'm live. However, I don't know if you can log in and check, but it's YouTube is telling me the stream status is bad.
I see you.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay.
So.
Just ignore it.
Yeah, just ignore it. I don't know why it's telling that.
All right, we will carry on.
All right.
Thanks. Bye. Andrew is my lifeline. You know, like that, what was that old game show called that was on TV, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And then you got to the point where if you didn't know the answer to a certain question, you could phone a friend. So Andrew is my lifeline, phone a friend when things go haywire, because I am not a tech-savvy person. Once I get the hang of something, I'm generally pretty good, but not a DIY guy when it comes to computers. So it's probably because my brain is too filled with useless trivia about 80s music and movies and skincare information, which is what I am here to talk to you about today. There's questions piling up. I did want to mention, in case you guys don't know, but our current special over on paulaschoice.com is that we are having 15% off all of our body care products, and that includes the brand new replenishing body cream that just launched last month. It's been good. It's been getting great reviews so far. I use it. I love it. I know this isn't, touch and feel because it's video, but damn, my skin is smooth. And you don't need very much of it. But all of our body products are on sale. Our hair and body shampoo, which is one of the only fragrance-free shampoos / body washes on the market. Smooth finish conditioner, also fragrance-free for all hair types. The weightless body treatment with 2% BHA, which is a where have you been all my life type product if you're someone that suffers from chicken skin, those raised red bumps that can crop up on the arms and the legs. We are getting into warmer weather in much of the United States, finally, which means people are going to be wearing more revealing clothing because it's hot out. And you want your skin to look its best. So this is the perfect time to stock up on body care as we get further into spring and summer. I said as we get into spring because here in Michigan, spring was about a month late based on the calendar. It's only been this week that we have gotten into what I would consider spring-like temperatures in the upper 50s to low 60s. Next week is going to be up in the low 70s. Woohoo! That did not stop my husband from coming home from work last night, already proclaiming that it's too hot. He would not do well living in Texas or Florida or Arizona, I'll tell you that. All right, questions. Let's see. I am going to start in order, and then I think I'm going to skip around a bit because I want to make sure that I get to questions from some of our new viewers, from some people that I know I've seen them asking questions, and usually for purposes of time, I don't get to them. And we can run a little bit over today if need be. So let me scroll down here real quick. Okay, cool. Nobody's saying I can't hear you. Yay. Chrissy to be lovely is asking if I can talk about transepidermal water loss. Big long phrase. Yes. Transepidermal water loss is essentially the process whereby skin loses the ability to hold on to moisture. It is one of the key measurements that companies that test their skincare products for hydration look for in terms of they'll do a test, say, on a new facial moisturizer, a new body moisturizer, and they will measure the water capacity of the skin before application, after application. There's usually various time points after which the moisturizer is applied, again, face or body, or maybe the eye area, where the level of moisture in the skin is calibrated, and there's various tools and devices that can tabulate that. It's not just somebody going, oh yeah, still feels moist, we're good. But there's typically various time points that those results are measured, and that will get you to claims such as prevents moisture loss for 12 hours or 8 hours or whatever the time frame is that had the best results. Keeping water in the skin, as well as allowing skin to hold on to the vital substances that make up its matrix, which largely informs how the skin's surface looks and feels. So those substances, ceramides are the big guns there, simply because that matrix that I just spoke of is about 50 to 51% ceramides. That is why they're so critical to find in moisturizers if you are really suffering from dry skin or an impaired barrier. Cholesterol, believe it or not, cholesterol typically gets a bad rap, as in my cholesterol is too high. But cholesterol is a key factor of skin's matrix. Very important to see in products. Lecithin would be one. Glycerin, which is in a ton of products, and for good reason. It's a workhorse ingredient, not too exciting, but it's actually pretty vital for our skin. Sodium hyaluronate or hyaluronic acid are other ones. PCA, like sodium PCA or just PCA by itself. I think that stands for polycarboxylic acid, but I may have completely butchered that. So bottom line is that maintaining a certain moisture level in skin, which skin will do on its own if it doesn't become damaged or irritated or dry. The problem is that for most of us, at some point in our lives or at some point in a given year, our skin is going to have a hard time holding on to water, which is why you need to replenish the systems in skin that can do that with topical products that help to prevent water loss from the skin. Emollient ingredients, classic emollient ingredients like petrolatum, mineral oil, silicones like dimethicone, those are all other examples of ingredients that help prevent water loss from skin surface. Okay, Gianna asks, I'm using the super antioxidant serum with vitamin C. The way you wrote that is all one word almost. It made me think of supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, which my nephew just played at his band concert this week, and I wasn't able to go, and my sister sent me a video. Very nice of her. So you're using the super antioxidant concentrate serum with vitamin C in the dark blue tube. Got it. And loving it. That's good. It's one of my favorite products of ours. But want to try the C15 too. Will the combination be too much vitamin C for my skin? I am normal to dry. You would have to experiment to see. I can tell you, as somebody who uses both of those products on a fairly regular basis, that I have applied the C15 booster, and I put on a little bit more than a few drops. A few drops is all that's needed. I just tend to be C happy, so I'll overdo it. And then I'll put on a rather thick layer of that serum. And when I do that, I don't follow with moisturizer because I have combination skin. Unless my skin's feeling unusually dry, I typically don't follow with moisturizer when I use that serum because it's viscous, it's silky for sure, but it isn't one of those serums like our ultralight super antioxidant concentrate or even something like our brightening essence that absorbs almost like all the way. You will feel this on skin, and the way I really layer it on, you definitely feel it, but I do it at night. So I don't care if my skin looks greasy. It doesn't feel greasy, but yeah, it can look that way. So yes, you can do that. If you notice any signs of sensitization, just separate application. So yeah, I think that's great. And there are different forms. The main form, I'm actually second guessing myself. This is what happens when you get to be 44. I'm going to take a quick look. I wanted to make sure I'm giving you the right I was going to talk about how the form of vitamin C in the Resist Super Antioxidant Concentrate Serum is tetrahexyl ascorbate. I was right. Woohoo! Still got some brain cells left. So yes, that is a different form of vitamin C than ascorbic acid that we are using in the C15 Super Booster, and they complement each other. I'm not mentioning the distinction because one's better than the other. It's just that ascorbic acid is pure vitamin C. Tetrahexyl ascorbate is a fat-soluble form of vitamin C. So they work, they absorb into the skin a little differently. Tetrahexyl ascorbate is one of the more stable forms of vitamin C. Ascorbic acid, you need to be very careful in terms of formulating it for pH. A lower pH is going to keep it more stable. And you also need to be very careful about the type of packaging it goes into, which is why we take a gazillion steps with the C15 to make sure that it will stay as stable as possible for the intended lifespan of that product, which is about 3 months once you open it. Okay, let's hop around here a little bit. Das Media Medium says, are there any plans for a new sunscreen by Paula's Choice? I would love to see a 20% non-nano zinc oxide sunscreen for extra high UVA protection or a purely Tinosorb one for European customers. We are always looking at different sunscreen formulas. We have some potential options in the works and some things that we're testing. I don't want to say more than that because sunscreens are so difficult. I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a cosmetic chemist who would tell you that out of all the facial skincare products or body skincare products they formulate, that sunscreens are a walk in the park. They're not. There's testing issues. In the United States, they're regulated as over-the-counter drugs, as they are in certain other parts of the world. There's testing issues you have to adhere to. There are solubility issues in terms of how everything plays together. That's important for every type of product, but it's just that overcoming solubility issues in a cleanser for the face or in a shampoo or in a toner is much easier than overcoming them in a sunscreen when you know, for example, you have a target SPF you want to hit 30, 50, 45, and you need a certain percentage and combination of active ingredients to do that. I am not one of those people that is really concerned about nano sizes of zinc oxide or titanium dioxide for that matter. We are careful about how we formulate with those mineral actives because we know some people are worried about the nanotechnology. For that reason, we typically tend to stick with the micronized form of zinc oxide, whose particle size is a little above 100 nanometers. And when you go below 100, that is when you get into what's considered the nanoscale range. The thing is, though, I personally wouldn't hesitate to use a sunscreen, and I'm sure I have used one or more that has nano-sized zinc oxide. The reason that I say that is because even though nano-sized molecules of zinc oxide have been shown to penetrate further into the skin, and you can point to research that shows that nanomaterials present either a known or a theoretical health risk of some nature. Cosmetic chemists know about these potential risks and drawbacks. If they have any experience formulating sunscreens, chances are very good they're up on it. They take formulary steps they wrap that nano-sized zinc oxide into a larger size molecule, typically a silicone type ingredient, but there's others they can use if you're formulating to be silicone free, for example. And not only does that formulary step ensure that the product isn't going to agglomerate on the skin. Agglomeration, it's a known issue with mineral sunscreens, which is why, again, sunscreens are a BIT you-know-what to formulate. When sunscreen actives agglomerate, you're putting a sunscreen on your arm, say, and if agglomeration is a problem with the formula, you'll literally get like chunks of zinc oxide that deposit in one spot and then they kind of shear out. You're not getting as much protection here, and then they chunk up a bit over here. It's not necessarily something that you're going to feel either, like when a product starts taking on a lumpy texture and it used to be smooth. So the what's the word I'm looking for? The tricky thing is that from a consumer perspective, you're not going to know if a product is agglomerating or not unless you're dealing with a mineral sunscreen where you're noticing that there's certain areas when you're applying that you really, really have to rub, and other areas just seem to go on nice and smooth, and then you're almost seeing like a bit of a more of a pasty effect that you really have to blend in. Now, some mineral sunscreens are pasty through and through, and they're kind of like putting like thick paint on your skin. What those larger ingredients do that encapsulate the nanomaterials is that they keep them suspended. They allow for better spreadability and more even dispersion of the active ingredients onto skin surface and just into the uppermost layers. They negate the concern around nanomaterial going further into the skin. That really isn't what you want with any sunscreen. If a sunscreen absorbs much past to the surface, or if nothing or not enough is staying on the surface, you're not going to get protection. So, roundabout way, I think I answered your question. Tinosorb is an interesting active ingredient. It is still one that is not permitted. It's not globally approved, as they say. It's at least certainly not approved yet in the USA. I wish it was. I will be the first in line to say that the United States needs more sunscreen actives. We need more people wearing sunscreen. The more actives we have to formulate with, the more interesting sunscreen formulas chemists can create, more aesthetically pleasing textures, even more novel types of application, anything that will get more of us to put on sunscreen and do so on a regular basis as opposed to, well, I'm going to the beach, so of course I have my sunscreen, and yeah, this is the one we got last summer. I hope it's still good, fingers crossed. I used to do that. Before I knew better, that was me. Sunscreens last forever, right? Okay. Nicolas says, hello, Brian, from Burgundy, France. Hello. Bonjour. I use a sunscreen that only contains titanium dioxide. I know that this filter does not protect well against UVA. Is that really a big deal? There's differing research about titanium dioxide and its UVA peak. The peak UVA protection for titanium dioxide that you'll typically see is 360 nanometers. That's where the protection peaks. However, unlike some other sunscreens that have that peak, when the protection starts to dip, with titanium dioxide, you see a much more gradual dip in terms of the level of nanometers, really to the point where I think it's fair to say that titanium dioxide on its own protects up to like 385, maybe even 400 nanometers, depending on the formulation. There's older research that shows that both titanium dioxide and zinc oxide, not combined, but when used separately, can protect up to 700 nanometers, which is past the range of visible light. It's almost getting us into infrared light, which we don't feel, or really that's past the limits, from what I understand, of what human beings can see. Infrared being outside of what's called the visible light spectrum. Visible meaning what we can see. So I know that a lot of brands, including Paula's Choice, have stopped formulating with titanium dioxide as a sole active ingredient out of concerns pertaining to regulations for UVA protection in the European Union, where you are. So that is why you're seeing fewer sunscreens on the market. 5-6 years ago, there were a lot of sunscreens that were just titanium dioxide. It is more, titanium dioxide and zinc oxide can both feel heavy. They are mineral ingredients. They are naturally occlusive, although on a aesthetic scale, I would say like the heavy, on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being like super heavy and thick and 1 being barely perceptible, I would say titanium dioxide on average is about a 5 aesthetically. It's kind of right in the middle, maybe even a 5.5, whereas zinc oxide is really more like 6.5, 7. Zinc oxide's a heavier ingredient. That is why the micronized and the nanoscale forms of them have been such a godsend, because it's allowed chemists not only to create safer sunscreens and more aesthetically pleasing sunscreens, but to also move away from that thick, pasty cream reminiscent of what lifeguards used to wear on their noses in the 70s and 80s, when that was that type of a paste-like mineral sunscreen. That was what you got from a mineral sunscreen. There weren't any other options. There were no lotions or fluids or gels or sprays. Now we have all of those, and companies like, for example, Neutrogena can put 13% zinc oxide, or Murad does a good job with this, in a fluid lotion. You have to shake it before use, but it's great. So my thought on that, Nicholas, is just to add on to what I just said, if it were me, I wouldn't be too concerned. If you are noticing any sort of a color change to your skin when you are in the sun, and you will see a color change with UVA rays. Those are the sun's tanning rays. So if the titanium dioxide isn't protecting you well enough, you can expect to see some color change to your skin. If you're not seeing color change, you're getting good enough UVA protection. If you are concerned, though, there are other sunscreens you can experiment with. The one I use is, most of the time on my face, is meaning that sometimes I use different ones. Not that I skip sunscreen. That is non-negotiable in my skincare routine. If I do nothing else for my skin in a day, I will put sunscreen on. I use the SkinCeuticals Physical Fusion UV Defense SPF 50. It has titanium dioxide and zinc oxide in a pretty equal ratio, so that's an option for you to look into, assuming SkinCeuticals is available in your neck of the woods. But if not, I know that there are brands sold in France, including Clarins, that offer some very good sun protection products that use mineral actives. So experiment. Lastly, if you are using a titanium dioxide sunscreen that has a very low amount of titanium dioxide, say between 2 and 4%, and that is the only active, I would be concerned about that. Even if the product says it's SPF 30, I would want something that had a higher percentage of either that mineral active on its own or combined with other sunscreens. MD says, "Hi Brian, I'm being treated for PCOS, polycystic ovary syndrome, I think is okay, with spironolactone, which is a drug. And while it has improved my cystic acne, my skin has become very dry while still being acne prone. Do you have any product recommendations?" So, yes, I do. Chances are, because PCOS is so tied to hormones, I suspect, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I suspect that you wouldn't normally just break out from products. And now that you've got the hormones, that influence under control with the medical therapy, you can start looking to skincare to address the dryness. If you are concerned about using thicker, richer creams, I would encourage you to experiment with lighter weight lotions and gel cream type formulas. For example, the latest, some companies are doing what they call cloud moisturizers, that they almost have like a bouncy jelly-like texture, and they look like they're kind of thick, like a cream, but when you put them on the skin, they feel very lightweight, hydrating, refreshing. They don't necessarily feel creamy, but they're super smooth. We have some textures that are like that, but I'm just like mentally going over our list of moisturizers. The Resist Anti-Aging Clear Skin Hydrator from Paula's Choice is one you could consider trying, but I would suggest layering that with our Omega Plus Complex Serum, which is also lighter weight, but really packs in some excellent non-fragrant plant oils, along with some other ingredients that are going to give you a rich source of omega-3, 6, and 9 fatty acids. All of those, plus the ceramides and other replenishing ingredients in this serum, they are wonderful for calming the skin. Anytime that you are seeing acne, there's some type of inflammation behind it. So anything you can put on the surface of your skin that helps to calm that down is wonderful. So I would start with those two products. I would also start using a beta-hydroxyacid exfoliant. Of course, we have several of those. It's what we're known for. We really kind of wrote the book on exfoliants, AHAs and BHAs, alpha hydroxy acids. I think for you can use BHA if you have dry skin. BHA is hydrating in and of itself. You just want to avoid those BHA products that are in alcohol bases, like an alcohol-based toner. You want to also avoid BHAs that are in a gel base because chances are they're not going to give you enough moisture. So from our line, if you want to start with a lower concentration, the Calm 1% BHA lotion, which is a lightweight, almost a matte finish type lotion, but it's not drying. It's not going to suck all the moisture out of your skin. You would layer that on and then put on the Omega Serum and then put on the Anti-Aging Clear Skin Hydrator. If you need something extra emollient to use around your eyes, the Resist Anti-Aging Eye Cream is phenomenal. Has a thick buttery texture that you just pat in all around the eyes and it sinks in. And the next morning you wake up and your eye area still looks fantastic, still feels moisturized. You will never wake up from that eye cream thinking, did I put that on? You know. It's designed for that. It's designed to be tenaciously hydrating. That's why I love it. Trying to, do I have anything to add there? We have 2% BHA products as well. There is a skin perfecting 2% BHA lotion if you wanted to start with a stronger percentage. But if you feel that the medication has got your acne under control and you're not struggling with general clogged pores, blackheads, for example, or white bumps, the 1% BHA should be great. RW says, hi Bryan, I love the PC shampoo and conditioner, but I hate the packaging. Are these on the list of packaging to be changed too? I would love a liter version of each for the pump. First part of the question, yes, those are on the list to be changed, and I think that you will be happier with the new packaging than you are with the current packaging. I'm someone that doesn't mind the current packaging. I don't love it. But again, I think I've mentioned this before. Part of the impetus for our packaging change is based on your feedback. What you guys are telling us, what you have told us, what you continue to tell us, what you like and don't like. So we love hearing those comments. The second part of the question was about a liter version. I have mentioned that before. I know other brands, some other brands do it. Mostly the salon brands. It isn't, first of all, we're a skincare line. It is a bit of an anomaly to be selling hair care. Really, the only reason we created those two products is because of the lack of really elegant, pleasant to use, but truly fragrance-free shampoos and conditioners out there. They're just so hard to find, still to this day. So I think it's unlikely you'll see liter sizes in that. I think you would be more likely to see bonus sizes of sorts in our facial cleansers. Not saying that's happening. Don't get your hopes up, but in terms of what Paula's Choice as a company would be more likely to do, you would see super sizes of facial cleansers before you'd see a liter of our shampoo and conditioner. Although I totally get, we've got customers that would be, clamoring at our door for those sizes. Haley says, hi Bryan, I heard that you shouldn't use a foaming cleanser unless you live in a very humid climate because they can cause surface dryness. What are your thoughts on this? It all depends on how the product is formulated. There are some foaming cleansers. I'm going to throw shade on a couple of brands because it frustrates me that they haven't changed these formulas. But Clinique and Clarins both make rather popular foaming cleansers that contain a high amount of ingredients like potassium myristate or potassium hydroxide or similar type ingredients they can be used in water-soluble cleansers, but they are also, depending on the formula, they can be the basis for making a soap. These are very thorough cleansing agents, almost too thorough for most people. So while they do contribute to creating the product's texture and to some extent that copious foam, they can be too drying, certainly in a climate where the humidity is low. So I think this is one of those beauty myths that there's that kernel of truth to, which I just went over. But generally speaking, if a foaming cleanser is the type of cleanser for your face that you just prefer, and a lot of what companies like us and a gazillion other brands that offer facial cleansers offer various formulas because of the fact that consumers have different texture preferences. All of them do the same thing in terms of cleansing your face, removing excess oil, taking your makeup off even, but people like switching things up, or they just have their preferences. Like you like pepperoni on pizza, I like mushrooms. It's just as simple as that. So if the foaming cleanser that you're using is well formulated, if it's gentle, if it doesn't have any fragrance, problematic plant extracts, there is no reason you cannot use it twice a day, regardless of where you live. If you find that, if you know that you're using a gentle foaming cleanser and you're still experiencing problems with it, chances are there's something else about that cleanser that isn't compatible with your skin type. Maybe you thought you were more oily than you were. I know some people over the years, they told me that, oh, this is back like when I used to work in as cosmetic counters and I was seeing women face to face. They'd come in and they'd be like, oh, my skin is so oily. And they just bemoan their oily skin. And I would hold up a mirror, we'd sit down together and I would say, well, so I'm not exactly seeing that. Why don't you show me where you feel your skin is really oily? And they would, oh, my nose is all, look at how shiny my nose is. They would have, I'm not kidding, a tiny, tiny amount of shine on the nose. I would turn to myself and say, this is a shiny nose. I have combination skin with an oily T-zone. You are really more normal to dry, and actually what you might be seeing that you perceive as oil is either some product residue from the skincare you used, or it's that combined with perspiration. I mean, you just walk to the counter from the mall parking lot, and it's rather hot outside. The body is good at keeping itself cool, temperature regulated. One of the ways it does that is perspiration. You don't have to be like sweating to get that glowy type effect from perspiration that you could end up perceiving as your skin being oilier than it is. Kind of went down a rabbit hole with that answer, but I think I mostly stayed on topic there. Okay. Oh, Aphrodite says, hello, Bryan. Should I remove sunscreen when I return home in the evening? Not before having a glass of wine and kissing your significant other. Rule number 1 and 2. You don't need to. I mean, yes, wash your face before going to bed. You don't need to wear sunscreen to bed. But there's no like urgent must do, set a reminder on your phone to remove your sunscreen as soon as you come home. Let me give you an example. Here in Michigan right now, it doesn't really start getting dark until after 8 o'clock at night, 8 p.m. So, if I work from home, but let's say I didn't, and I got home at 5:30, 6 o'clock, I've got a good 2 hours of daylight left. I'm not going to wash my sunscreen off right away. What if I wanted to go for a walk later? What if I had to run to the store? What if our kitchen table is right by a giant window? Those UV lights can penetrate glass. I'm not washing off that protection. And there isn't any reason to do so. There may, though, depending on the amount of sun exposure you've had prior to coming home, there might be a reason for you to put more sunscreen on, but that's down to what your individual day was like and whether or not you perspired. And for example, let's say you stop at the gym on the way home and work out and you sweat, but you're skipping the shower because you just want to get home. You don't do any skincare there. You really should be putting more sunscreen on before you leave the gym to compensate for what was diluted or removed from sweating. And then this same person says, I've forgotten to ask, what is your opinion on mineral powders? I like them. They can be heavy. Some of them can feel more drying. You need to experiment. As with so many things in skincare and makeup, you need to experiment with different options before you find one that you love. I know that the Beautypedia team has reviewed several over the years. Bare Minerals is a big one still. I think they've done a good job over the years of making their loose mineral powders much more cosmetically elegant. They feel less drying, less gritty-ish on skin than earlier versions did. But now, because of the popularity of mineral makeup, mineral powders, whether you're looking for pressed or loose, you can find them from a lot of different brands. So check them out. I would not... Let's go back to mineral powders. If you are looking for a mineral powder that offers sun protection, just keep in mind that it is not a good idea to use a loose or pressed mineral powder as your sole source of sun protection. Reason being is the amount of that powder that you would need to apply to get the amount of sunscreen on the label, because you know sunscreens have to be applied liberally, is going to be way too much for what most people would deem acceptable. If you like a thick layer of powder on your skin and you blend it really well, then more power to you. But most of us are going to want to put on a moisturizer of some sort with SPF first, and then you can use the mineral powder with sunscreen to boost that sun protection as opposed to using it all on its own. Okay, skipping around a little bit because I've got my regulars. I'll get to some of your questions. We've got time. Vanessa says, hi, Bryan. Is there such a thing to being vitamin C sensitive? Every time I seem to use a product, especially vitamin C infused serums, I tend to break out. What else can I do for lines and wrinkles? People can be sensitive, Vanessa, to any of the bioactive ingredients, of which vitamin C, particularly in higher amounts, is one. There are multiple forms of vitamin C. So let's just assume that you've tried products with different forms of vitamin C and you've noticed this pattern of breakouts every time. Could just be an issue, an individual issue with your skin and vitamin C. They're not compatible. There could be another common denominator between those products that is what you're really reacting to. The number 1 and 2 sources of skin allergies, according to a lot of research that has looked at longitudinal studies, meaning done over many years, cross cultures, cross ages, fragrance in various forms, not just fragrance in general, because that's a whole other discussion. Fragrance and preservatives are the number 2 source of skin allergies, so it's possible. I know it's easier to look at that bioactive ingredient and say, aha, it's probably the vitamin C, or I know it's the vitamin C. Maybe it is, but it could also be that the products you've used with varying strengths and types of vitamin C contain the same preservatives. Maybe it's just one preservative that is that common thread between those products. Now, this is kind of easy to rule out because if you're using other skincare products that have those same preservatives and not breaking out from those products, you don't have to worry about the preservatives in all likelihood. It may well be the vitamin C. The good news is that when it comes to improving the appearance of fine lines and wrinkles, vitamin C isn't the only game in town. Much the same way that when it comes to eating a healthier diet, when you're surveying the types of vegetables available, if you don't like spinach, there's broccoli, there's bok choy, there's cabbage, there's collard greens, there, on and on and on. There's other options. And it's the same thing with anti-aging ingredients. Your skin may not like vitamin C, but it may love peptides. It may, and they're peptides, what's so cool about peptides, the bioengineered, lab-engineered type peptides, is that peptides can be created, take a breath, peptides can be created to hone in on very specific areas of concern for skin. So there are peptides that can address loss of firmness, peptides that can address skin tone issues, wrinkles, fine lines, loss of hydration, sensitivity, and there's more and more being created all the time, which is a very cool area of skincare research. So a product like our peptide booster may be just what you need if you can't use vitamin C. And of course, there's retinol, there's niacinamide, there's hyaluronic acid. You could even look to your doctor to talk about prescription retinoids that if your concerns are fine lines, wrinkles, loss of firmness, something like that mixed with our peptide booster for all the extra benefits that provides could be wonderful for you. So don't be discouraged because it seems that your skin can't tolerate vitamin C without breaking out. There are other options. Alexander asks, do I need to use a serum with the clinical ceramide enriched moisturizer? No, you certainly can to get even more benefits, but you're getting such a nice mix of anti-aging ingredients in that moisturizer. I mean, to me, adding a serum to that is icing on the cake, as we say. So I would encourage you to experiment and see if you like the combined results from layering those products, or if you're happy enough with the results from the moisturizer, then you can skip the serum. Although I like for our serums, there's a lot of bad serums out there. A lot of good ones too, but I think ours are particularly good, particularly for what they cost. I always look at those and just like, I think we're losing money on our serums. Sarah says, hi, Bryan. I hope you're doing well. What are the thinnest Paula's Choice sunscreens? I lifeguard over the summer, so I need to frequently reapply. Plus, I can get really oily, sweaty, gross, I know. So, the thinnest ones are going to be our clear ultralight with SPF 30 and the Resist. It's not the skin restoring. I'm blanking out. I think it's Resist Daily. I'm looking it up right now. I think it's the Resist Daily Hydrating Fluid with SPF 50. Yeah! Youth Extending Daily Hydrating Fluid SPF 50. So, once again, brain is still working. Both of those are super thin, almost like a watery type lotion. I think that they would be great. However, on a more of an anecdotal note, for long days in the sun, I'm more of a fan of the mineral sunscreens. So, if anything, for your face, you might want to take a look at our Resist Super Light Daily Wrinkle Defense with SPF 30. That just has zinc oxide as the active ingredient. It comes out of the tube kind of as a thick cream, but when you put it on skin, it thins out quite a bit and it sets to a matte finish. So when you start getting sweatier and whatnot, it actually holds up really well, and you won't look like an oil slick on your face. And then what you can do is with one of those other sunscreens I mentioned, you could use that as your reapplication. So you'd put on the Daily Wrinkle Defense, which also has a slight skin tone-like tint to it, so it doesn't look pasty on your skin, which is a concern of mineral sunscreens, not just ours, but anyone's. I think that could be really cool for really nice, robust protection that you would then layer with one of our non-mineral sunscreens when it's time to reapply. Here we go. Okay. Lydia Wilcox says, hi, Bryan. What is the difference between old and new AHA 10%? So Lydia is referring to our new Resist Advanced Smoothing Treatment with 10% AHA and the liquid, the original liquid, which is our Resist Weekly Resurfacing Treatment with 10% AHA. So a big difference right off the bat is texture. The original product, which we're still selling for a while at least, is a liquid, like a toner, that you can put on carefully with your fingers because, liquid's going to run right through, but you can, pour it into your hand and kind of do this a little bit at a time, or even easier is to use a cotton pad. With the advanced smoothing treatment, that is more of a fluid serum. So it has a dropper applicator with a little dispenser built into the cap, and you could just dispense about a dime-sized amount of that, or about that much. For those of you who are like, what's a dime? Or how big is a dime? I'm sure you know what a dime is, but size comparison. That goes on. I think that one is easier to apply. The other difference, formulary-wise, both formulas have the same, pretty much the same antioxidants and plant extracts for the most part. We really liked the blend that we developed for weekly resurfacing treatment, so much of that was parlayed into the advanced smoothing treatment. The advanced smoothing treatment, though, has a blend of AHAs plus a little bit of BHA, and I think it's at about a 0.5% salicylic acid for an extra nudge of exfoliation. So whereas with the weekly resurfacing treatment, you're getting just 10% glycolic acid, which is good. For the advanced smoothing treatment, we use glycolic, lactic, and malic along with the salicylic acid. I might be missing one. But the point is, by using a blend of AHAs that work at different levels of the skin, you're getting a bit more of what I would say is a calibrated exfoliation experience. I've switched over to that one. I used to use the weekly resurfacing treatment. I like this advanced smoothing treatment better. Same thing for in our Resist collection for normal to oily skin. Those people who have signs of aging, but they're breaking out, they have enlarged pore concerns. In a lot of anti-aging lines, if you want anti-aging, you have to go with the thicker emollient, creamy, rich formulas. But if you've got normal to oily skin and you're seeing signs of aging and pore and clogging issues, all those products are wrong for your skin type. So our Resist Ultralight collection, those products in the light blue packaging, those are for you. And we have the Advanced Pore Refining Treatment, which is a update of our weekly retexturizing foam. They both contain 4% salicylic acid. Again, the Advanced Pore Refining Treatment is much smoother, just has a nicer serum-like texture. Roel Sman says, this is a good question. What is the benefit of layering the same antioxidants in different products like toner, serum, and moisturizer? So with any antioxidant, well, I shouldn't say with any, because you can always find research that refutes that when you make those more general statements. The benefit is that for the most part, skin can't get enough of antioxidants. With a lot of them, and let's use green tea as an example, it doesn't take a lot to demonstrate a positive effect on skin, like 0.001%. Sounds like nothing, right? That'll actually give a nice protective effect when put on skin. If you are adding products that have that same antioxidant and either a little bit less than that, maybe more than that, you are going to get a cumulative benefit. Again, using green tea as an example, there's research showing that that low concentration that I mentioned can protect skin, say, from generating a certain type of free radical when it's exposed to UV light, which is a good thing. However, if you look at other research about green tea, there's research showing that a 2% concentration can significantly reduce the factors in skin that lead to lingering redness from breakouts. Very different results. So that's just an example of how layering 3 or 4 products that have green tea can get you it gets you different levels and potentially different types of benefits that you may not even know that you need, but you'll start seeing the results and think, I didn't expect, this combination of products. Is it a single product? Is it my routine? In this case, it's likely your routine. So it's not a bad thing to layer several products that have the same antioxidants. But as a general rule, the more antioxidants, the better. But it's also good to differentiate the types of antioxidants you use. That's why I'm not a big fan of, I know what some skincare collections do is they'll focus on one antioxidant ingredient like green tea or pomegranate, and they'll build a whole routine around that. Here's our pomegranate line. And your cleanser and your toner and everything has pomegranate extract in it. Maybe some vitamin E, because vitamin E plays so well with other antioxidants, and it also helps preserve products minimally. It's more about rancidity than like protecting from bacteria and other pathogens. Where was I going with that? Oh, the more antioxidants you can use in terms of variety, the better. So while it's okay to layer products that have the same antioxidants, it's also recommended to use products that have a variety of antioxidants, much the same way, it always comes back to diet, much the same way that eating a variety of nutritious foods is going to be better for your overall health than just sticking to 2 or 3 nutritious foods from each group. I mean, we all have our favorites, but, branch out a bit. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes left. It is time for the lightning round. I'm going to step away. I haven't done this before, but this tea is actually dehydrating me, so I'm going to actually fill this with some water. Talk amongst yourselves. And on the way back. Okay. A little bit of delay. All right. Lightning round of questions now that my throat isn't totally parched. Oh, some of these are going to take a little bit more to answer. So if I don't answer your question, come back after the broadcast and paste it into the comment section, and I will, over the next couple days, I will address the questions. I promise. I won't leave you hanging. But let's see how many of these I can answer quickly in the 9 or 10 minutes we have left. Alex says, I'm using an extremely fluid azelaic acid serum with PC-C15 booster. Should I use it before or after the C15? The viscosity is lower than C15's, but I also want as much vitamin C penetration as possible. So it doesn't matter, really, I promise you. When you have two products of similar viscosities, you can layer them in whatever fashion feels most comfortable to you. Given the thinness of the azelaic acid product, I really don't have any doubts that C15 will be able to get through it. However, it's also, I would say, give it a few days of experimenting with one application method and then switch and try the other way and see if you notice a difference. If you don't notice any difference, or if you're like, I can't tell, do whichever one feels best to you. That's my honest answer there. Okay. Andy says, is PC bringing back the lactic acid cloths? Never say never. It's not in the works for this year or next. We really ran into some problems with that formula, and eventually with the packaging, causing the cloth solution to dry out sooner than it should have. So even though we did the testing and what is known, you do what's called accelerated stability testing, where you put a product through its paces in more of an extreme type of situation that is essentially supposed to mimic what would happen over the course of a year, 2 years, 3 years. And companies do that because if you literally had to do a real-time 2-year, 3-year stability test, products would take forever to come to market. And I'm not saying that companies are cutting corners, because this accelerated stability testing was developed specifically to overcome that problem. And for the most part, it works brilliantly. And it's the rare product that ends up having unanticipated stability problems or compatibility problems with the packaging. So, but that's why. I say never though, because that product, which was like a KP wipe with lactic acid and salicylic acid, that's kind of always like in the back of our minds, like, yeah, what are we going to do about that? Because there was an audience for that product. Hello from Ohio. Woohoo, we're neighbors. Camila says, hi, Bryan. What about the absorption of vitamin D with the sunscreen barrier? What about that? So yes, using sunscreen will, to a large extent, keep the skin from making vitamin D. However, without getting too technical, because this could easily turn into a long technical answer, research has shown that even in countries where the population at large does not typically wear sunscreen, in India, which has like 18 billion people, that actually was meant as an exaggeration, but it might be pretty close. They have a lot of people in India. And the population at large there typically doesn't wear sunscreen, yet Indian people have some of the lowest levels of vitamin D in the world. You'd think that wouldn't be the case. They're that much, where they are on the map puts them closer to the equator. They get more intense sun there than we do in some other parts of the world, just some other parts. And yet they have low vitamin D levels despite not wearing sunscreen and being exposed to the sun more. Why is that? Well, we actually know why it is. Different topic, but VB wants to know if I'm vegan. I'm not. Although I do try to eat 1 or 2 vegan meals per week just to expand my diet, and because a lot of the vegan foods that would be considered vegan are in fact pretty dang healthy. You could certainly be an unhealthy vegan based on what you choose to eat. Sugar is vegan, but no, I'm not, and I'm not a vegetarian. I do eat meat. I try to eat more seafood and poultry than beef or pork. And when I do have pork, I try to reserve it for the occasional bacon indulgence, but that's it. How much water do I have to drink is another question from VB. And she mentions her weight, and I'm not good at converting kilograms to pounds. My apologies there. But regardless of weight, you need to drink as much water to keep you from feeling thirsty or parched, and maybe a little bit beyond that, because sometimes when you are actually dehydrated, some people just don't get that obvious sensation of thirst for various reasons. You will know if you are drinking too much water if you are making an unusual amount of trips to the bathroom. Body's very good at keeping what it needs and eliminating what it doesn't. So don't get stuck in this rut of thinking I need 2 liters of water per day, or 8 glasses, or 12 glasses, or 15 glasses. If what you're finding by doing that is you're uncomfortable, you're kind of feeling a little bloated, and you're running to the bathroom more because all that extra water you're drinking, the body's like, hey, I don't need this, and I know what to do with it. Stop drinking so much water. So just pay attention to that. And if your bathrooming habits are normal in terms of, yeah, this is about the number of times I normally go to the bathroom in a day, and you're not drinking a lot of diuretic type liquids, which is pretty much caffeine and alcohol. I'm not saying a couple of cups of coffee is a problem, but if the main source of your fluids during the day come from coffee or tea, that's definitely going to pull more water out of your system and would mean that you'd actually need to compensate by drinking more water. Ulzik says, what toner should I use with BHA? Whichever one that you like that's well formulated. From the Paula's Choice line, because we have a nice broad selection of toners that are all fragrance-free, alcohol-free, irritant-free. Choose based on your skin type and then your concerns. And we can help you. Call our client services team if you're stuck. They can help you find the exact right toner for you. I have combination skin, as I've mentioned, and I love our Resist Advanced Replenishing Toner, which is really more for normal to dry skin, but I have happened to find that it works perfectly for me. I love how soothing it is, and I have said before that they'll have to pry that product out of my cold dead hand. I love it so much. Yep, okay. Bookmark Page says, do not stop selling the shampoo. I love it. I have such a hard time finding fragrance-free shampoos. I'll be outside the building with tomatoes. My tomato comment. Yeah, believe me, there's no plans, full transparency here, there's no plans to discontinue that product. When it first came on the market, it was not a product that we owned. We actually, another lab developed it as a turnkey product, and we launched it thinking, you know, let's just see how this is going to do. It was our first foray into hair care, and we were honestly a little gun shy. And we found this great turnkey fragrance-free shampoo that we really, honestly, genuinely loved. And then when it did take off, we went back to the drawing board and kept what we loved about it and used the latest technology and developed a formula of our own that we now own. So that formula is now a Paula's Choice exclusive. So is the conditioner. A little bit of history there for you, behind the scenes stuff. But yeah, we were nervous when that first launched that it would kind of go over with a resounding thud, because anytime you watch people shop for shampoo, what's the first thing they do? They take the lid off the bottle, or they flip the cap, and they smell it. It's a very important part of the shower experience for a lot of people. I use a fragranced shampoo. It's about the only fragrance product that I use because I like that experience, and I don't have a sensitive scalp per se, and shampoo is something that is in brief contact with my scalp. You don't have to worry about getting fragrance on the hair. The hair doesn't care. It's dead. So there's my little story there about shampoos and stuff. Monica says, hello, bonjour, Brian from Canada. Hi there. You know, I don't get to Canada as much as I used to. When I lived in Washington, getting out, or Seattle area, getting up to Vancouver was not that difficult. And Vancouver is just, I mean, guys, if you haven't visited Vancouver, British Columbia, it is just a beautiful, beautiful city, as is Toronto. Toronto is more gritty. It has its nicer areas, but it's from my experience with Toronto is a bit more of a city where you can definitely tell when you're in the nicer part of town versus when you're in the not so nice part of town. It's quite a division there. And I don't know why that is. I'm completely ignorant on that fact. I'm just my personal observation. Here in Michigan, we can go up to Windsor, which is right across the bridge from Detroit. I have not been to Windsor in years, so can't speak to that. But when I was younger, we used to go across the bridge because the drinking age in Canada at the time was 18. Yeah, I was 18, and you could gamble. So we would go across the bridge and go to the casinos and have a grand old time and try to make it back without getting pulled over. And we did. So, and I was always responsible. I was always the one that was just like, I'll drive. Okay. Let's take a couple more and then I'll sign off. And again, if I don't get to your questions, copy and paste it into the comment section once this video is on our page, and I will come back and answer them. I know we always get more questions than I have the time to answer. So thank you for all your contributions. Love the Resist Cleanser, yay. Joan says, hi from Spain. What sunscreen do you recommend if you have a short beard and you don't tolerate organic sunscreen ingredients? What sunscreen do I recommend if you have a short beard and don't tolerate organic sunscreen ingredients? Boy, sometimes you've got to experiment with different bases. For the beard area, if you find that a lotion or a cream type sunscreen just tends to take too long to blend in, or it gets caught in the whiskers, honestly, I think a spray sunscreen that would be the solution. We have an SPF 43 spray that we're actually discontinuing, but it's still, I'm just double checking, it is still available on our site. It's on sale right now, and it's an alcohol-free formula, but there are some formulas, spray sunscreens, that have some alcohol in them. So what to do, if you try ours, see what you think, spray it in your hand, and then apply it to the beard area. If that isn't your game, if you don't like how that feels, your next step would be to try an alcohol-based sunscreen spray. Normally, I wouldn't recommend an alcohol-based product, but if you spray it in your hand and just kind of lightly rub it in to the beard and try not to get it onto the skin underneath, I think if the beard is dense enough, you're going to get enough protection there that you don't need to worry about it getting all the way down to the skin. So again, try it out, see what you think, and come back and let me know if you thought those suggestions were helpful or not. That's it. We've gone a little over for this hour, and I know I have a meeting with Paula. She's in the office today, and then she heads out tomorrow for several days of press events and whatnot in New York, and then she takes off from New York and flies over to Europe, and I will be meeting her there in Stockholm for 3 weeks. 3 weeks in Europe. So next Thursday is May 3rd, and I will still be in town, and I will be back next week for a live chat, and then that will probably be my only live chat until the last live chat until the end of May. I don't think I'll be able to do my normal bat channel for live chats when we are in Europe. So, thank you for, sorry about that clap. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for being fans and supporters of Paula's Choice, of our information, of our products. This is always such a humbling experience for me to spend time with you guys. So I really appreciate it, and I will look forward to seeing you next week. Until then.